Hello.
Hello.
So we have Sandra here today. And we are going to be talking about an extra special topic.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're super excited about it. We want to give a shout out to our patrons before we get started.
Miss Sandra.
Miss Sandra. Wow. And then we also have Mika and Shayla. So thank you guys so much. Skull. Click the link down in the bio if you want to support us and get some of our goodies through there. Yeah.
Shopping. Yes, your stuff is so amazing. I can highly recommend it. Like your shop, everyone should check it out. It's really like, I'm speaking of experience here, like so happy with what I purchased so far.
Oh, thank
So
you,
happy.
Sandra. That's so sweet.
You're welcome.
And should we also talk about your shop? Because I feel like
Yes, we should.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yes. So plug your shop, Sandra, and we'll include a link in the bio as well to your Instagram so people can give you a follow.
Yeah, and the link to my shop is on my page too. So yes, I'm actually crafting runic pendants. Like special wood, and I hand designed the runes specifically for each of my clients, so you can't really purchase something in the shop itself, because what I always found when I go on an Etsy page or something, I like 90% of the item I want to purchase, and then there's 10% where I'm like, maybe not. And so what I want to do is I want to get in a dialogue with my clients so I can make something custom made for them. And yeah, just send me a message then and we can get started with the runic pendant. I got bloodwood, bayou burl, beautiful wood that has lots of spiritual energy. Right now I'm wearing olive wood with my little shop logo.
Oh, yes. I love that.
It's beautiful.
It's like the Manas rune and the Raido, and also, well, Marinwen's little shop of runes, so the M and R is in there. And yeah, so far I made a couple of pendants. I mean, shipping due to the COVID-19 situation is a bit complicated and it's just gonna take a while, but everything that has been ordered so far, it's on its way. And yeah,
I can't wait to get mine.
I know.
Of excitement. I can't wait to hold it in my hand.
Yeah, the two I made for you are just, they're beautiful. They're gorgeous. And I'm only gonna use each design once. So each one is unique and one of a kind.
And I think that's so powerful that you custom create it for each person and each person's path, you know, and it's not just something that is pick whatever feels closest to, you know, it's, there's so much more intention to it, which
exactly.
That's so incredible.
And so what I usually do is I have a couple of raw pendants and my clients can pick the wood, and then I start making the designs. I just ask them a couple of questions like, what would you like to boost? Or it's kind of like a personal talisman.
Yeah.
So if you want to like stay focused on your path, or if you need more balance or inner peace, we can like find something in that direction, like one major rune and all the others kind of amplify. And so when you look at it, some runes just pop out and then you just look it up. There's always like a little legend to it that I handwrite. So you see, oh, this boosts that. And so you know what to focus on, or what should be important in your life in that specific moment, because basically everything is just moments.
Yeah. And I love that you take such a personal approach with them too. Like, I think that is so beautiful, because like you said earlier, you know, like there's a lot of times where you see, you know, a product and you're like, I like so much of this, but it's just not quite right. So the fact that you are able to work with like people people in order to do something that's right for them. Like, I think that's
it's very personal because like each path is so personal.
yeah.
And I really value the trust as well, because you really need to think about what you would like. And even that is a huge step into the right direction, because usually people are like, oh, well, I don't know what to get. And then it's like, okay, well, think about it, because this is just for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even by that, that's self-care.
Mhm.
You know, they have to have a really, really close look. Sorry, my cat is just here on the table and she's all like, sorry.
Oh my goodness.
Is that Yoda?
Yeah, that's Yoda. She's like really demanding at the moment. So yeah, since you really have to think about what you would like to amplify or what you would like to attract into your life, it gives you a very good picture of yourself, where you stand in that moment. And if you want to proceed on that path, or if you want to try something else and need a boost into that direction.
Defining what that driving force is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get into what we want to talk about.
Yes.
Let's get into the meat of it.
Yes.
So as some of you guys know, if you are a patron, you know that we put out a newsletter every quarter. And, you know, Sandra was one of our first patrons. And so she got access to the Salmon newsletter. And, you know, we were kind of talking to her about it. And really the idea is behind the newsletter, like Alyssa and I put this together this time around, but we really want it to be like a community newsletter. We want to take, you know, submissions from our patrons in order to, you know, make it, fill it out more and give it more like blood and spirit in it. Because we really want this to be a community. And Sandra and I were talking on Instagram, and she had a really good idea for something that she wanted to, you know, contribute to the Yule newsletter. And I was like, I really want to get into this, like, as an episode, because I think it's so important to talk about. And I feel like it's something a lot of people don't really talk about. So Sandra, I'm going to let you kind of introduce the topic, and then we can kind of like talk about it some, because I'm excited about it a lot.
It's about deities. Because from experience, I figure there are a lot of people who work with just one deity or no deity, and people who work with one deity kind of find it hard to work with more than one. But why? Like the monotheism I know from Catholic Church, and I was like, okay, is it like a personal guilt trip or something? Because no, but because in most world religions, it's like one deity, that's it, nothing else. But when it comes to spirituality, and especially our craft, there are so many. So why limit yourself to one or none, or, you know, where you can have, where you basically have access to them all. I mean, so many people I know, so many witches and also other people, they kind of feel or felt uncomfortable in their religious upbringing. And so at a certain point, they decided to leave that and step on their own path. But kind of the stigma from the past is still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have that certain routine that you find in your Sunday Mass when it comes to rituals. You stick to an agenda. You do your offerings at a certain time. You devote yourself to one deity, and that's it. And for me, sounds a lot like, you know, my Catholic upbringing, where I did not feel comfortable in. I didn't feel like I belonged, because you were never allowed to ask any questions.
Yeah.
Never. And for me, I'm a person, I'm like, okay, I can think for myself. I was never that blind, obedient follower. And so I always ask, why not?
Yeah.
And yes, I've been working with one deity for a very, very long time, and I did not choose her. I got the call when I was 19, and I had no idea who that was. And then I started working with her. It was Hecate. So started working with her, and looking back, there were so many signs I didn't see.
Yeah.
And I've been working with her. Well, it's an on and off relationship, kind of, because I'm pretty sure deities are busy too, and they can't always pop up when you give them an offering or when you call them. But
Yeah.
when it's like, okay, most of the time it's you got to do the work yourself anyway. Witchcraft is always a very, very, very active craft. It's not like, here, I made something for you, now grant me 3 wishes. It's not a
Exactly.
it's not, okay? I'm glad when people get crafty and are spending time with a good mindset on that, but it doesn't solve their problems.
No.
And it's nice to have something you can believe in when it's a deity, although it's not a necessity in that case. The craft and the power comes from within. And it's nice to have a guideline where you can turn to, but you still got to do the work yourself. Like money spell. Yes, you can do a money spell. All of a sudden you get an extra shift and it's like, yeah, but I don't want to work more. I just want more money. But dude,
I just want the actual money, please.
just give me the money. I want to win the lottery. Honey, you got to start playing the lottery to win it first. It's not going to happen like that. And that's what most people don't understand. And especially witches that are starting on their path, you can influence them in lots of ways, because they think, oh my God, I need to have a coven. I need to have a deity. Okay, I'm going to choose a deity now. And then they start Googling the most popular and kind of go for that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Even though there might not even be a connection there. I mean, it's a good start, but you need to listen to your intuition. If it doesn't feel right, then just don't do it. Or if nothing's coming back. Same thing with relationships with people or friendships. Some work, some just don't, and that's okay. It's not a competition between the deities. They're quite happy that there are people who are interested and are interested in the history. But never forget, everything you read about is completely man-made.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And the only voice you should listen to should be your intuition. But of course, you got to learn how to,
Trust that.
separate intuition from everything like storming onto you from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it can be frustrating when you try to connect and it's just not happening, and you ask yourself, what am I doing wrong? And it's like, sometimes you just try too much. Take a step back.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just sit down and let it flow.
And sometimes too, it's like with what you were saying, sometimes that connection happens, sometimes it doesn't happen, sometimes it happens and it doesn't continue to happen. Just like we have people come in and out of our lives with our
Exactly.
relationships with people on this plane.
Mhm.
That can happen with deity, with spirit, with all kinds of relationships.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I love like how you kind of began with like this monotheistic type perspective, because I do feel like for me personally, it's been something that I felt like I've had to untrain,
Yeah.
because growing up in a very religious household, it's this constant guilt, it's this
Definitely.
is God, and anything beyond that is just blasphemy,
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to have to sit and do that constant self-evaluation of what is me and what is something that I've been trained to believe.
Exactly. And that's hard work. And it's
Yeah.
it's groundbreaking,
Yeah.
because you start doubting yourself 24/7 when you get to that point.
Mhm.
And it's like, when you get to that point, you really need to take a step back from everything. Just take a deep breath and just go like, okay, what am I happy with? What did I learn from my upbringing that I can actually bring to the future that has a positive effect?
Mhm.
what was negative, do I still need that?
Yeah.
It's always our own choice to get rid of the burden from the past. Because it's not like, you know, I'm 43, and so nothing and no one is forcing me to follow a certain path.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, dude, I'm not 8, you know, like,
I do what I
are
want.
you are you my mom, my dad? Like, no.
And even still.
No, but it's hard. It's hard work.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, especially the guilt trip. Like, that's super crazy. I really don't work with an agenda when to do offerings or when to connect with the deity I'm working with at the moment, because it differs, it's different. Like last year, I started working with Freya, even though I didn't even know I was connected to her. She made herself known in like visions, dreams, like certain coincidences that can't really be coincidences. And it's like, that was super odd. Like when the falcon is basically flying in front of my house, landing in a tree, turning around, yelling at me. So I see him, and then it flies off. I was like,
Okay.
that was weird. You know, that might have a meaning. Maybe I should check it out. And then was like, oh yeah, well, it makes sense, but sorry, lady, I don't know what to do with you. You know, it's like, also I'm like kind of working with Hecate, but I didn't have a bad feeling about it. My head gave me a bad feeling about it. My intuition was completely like, yay, you know, like 2 of them. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Let's do
It's like, okay. And same thing, like if something breaks in your house, you know, it depends. Sometimes you need a carpenter, sometimes you need a plumber. You don't call the plumber to fix your windows, you know?
Yeah.
Same thing. Why do we do it in like that part of life and don't do it on the inside when there needs to be something fixed, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And it's so interesting because this is something that is like new to my path. Because I've always worked with, you know, one deity.
Mhm.
I tried in the beginning, like I think I mentioned before, I tried like working with Hecate, and she wasn't really calling to me as much. So it was
Yeah.
felt like I was kind of like reaching out into a void. Um, and then I got called by the Morrigan, probably like 8 years ago. So I've been working with her solely since then. And it's only recently that I felt called by another goddess. And it
Yeah.
was interesting when we started talking about this because I was like,
Isn't the timing amazing?
yeah, it is. But it is like this, like your head is telling you, like, no, you work with the Morgan. You don't need to work with anyone else. Like,
Yeah.
but you do, like you have
Yeah.
different friends for different seasons, you have
Yeah.
different contacts
Exactly.
for different things, so it's the same thing, but it's like you don't even know that you have that left over from your upbringing until it's something that you face and you're like, oh, like I didn't even realize this is something that I needed to work through until
Yeah.
it's staring you right in the face. And like you said, your
Mhm.
intuition's telling you like this is, you know, this is what you're being called for next. Like this is your next step in your journey. It doesn't mean you're leaving the Morgan behind. It means
No.
you're adding to
Yeah,
your practice
exactly.
and you're growing in a different way. Um, but it's like you got to kind of retrain your brain and
Absolutely.
really dig into like, why am I thinking like that? Like what is causing this?
Yeah.
Who would have thunk that that monotheistic kind of religion was still part of you?
I just had a thought too about even not just in speaking of the terms of deity.
Mhm.
I think that there is a lot of pressure that we put on deity and on people to be all
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
you know? And it's
Yeah.
even in relationships, you know, it's relationships are a lot of relationships, common relationships, are based on there's one person for me. And that one person has to be everything for me, you know?
Yeah, but that's kind of hard to do for just one person. And also witchcraft has so many different aspects and so many like different things you can work with. Like, for example, without Freya, I wouldn't be working with runes.
Yeah.
I was always kind of scared because it was like, oh God, it's an alphabet. It's like a new language. I don't want to learn that, you know?
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I look at them, I'm like, oh yeah, it's that. And that's the meaning of it. And over here, and when you combine the two, it's kind of like, and I'm like, dude, where's that coming from? You know? What did just happen? Hecate couldn't have done that for me. So she came at the right time. And I'm still working with both, but also my witch sister, she's working with another deity, and her deity gave me a gift. And Freya gave me a gift for my witch sister. And we were both like, yeah, but I'm not kind of, you know, that connection is different.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely okay. It's kind of like, oh yeah, we have a mutual deity, you know, like we have a mutual friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, and it's an experience I don't want to miss anymore. Like, I was always fascinated by the Morrigan, but I could never connect. That's the thing. Sometimes you read something and you soak in every word and it's just there. You learn it by heart instantly, and it will stick with you for the rest of your life. That was me and Hecate. I tried to read something about the Morrigan. I started the chapter over and over and over again. I think I gave up after the 17th time. So I was like, yes, I'm really interested in her, but apparently she's not meant for me.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely fine.
Yeah. And
But some people just,
interested in you later on.
yeah, exactly. It could be that maybe 10, 15 years, you know, it's like, oh, look at that. You never know. But for that moment, and people sometimes try way too hard, and then they're imitating, and it's not their intuition. And then they ask themselves why things don't work out. Maybe it's because sometimes they're just trying too hard
Yeah.
to connect with a deity that might not be meant for them in that moment, for that situation. Sometimes people need to be made aware of their own abilities to pull themselves out of a effing hole. I don't want to curse that much. So, and people need to see that they actually have the strength to do that by themselves, by the power of their will. It's okay to have a deity to encourage you, but don't expect a deity with a flowing dress pick you out of a hole and put you back on the ground. No, you got to do that yourself. Yeah. And sometimes the reason that you cannot connect to a deity in that moment is that you actually have that strength waiting in you. You need to activate it yourself, so you can actually see you can overcome every obstacle with or without a deity. It's a bonus. It's not a necessity.
Yeah.
You don't solely rely on a deity. It's always like a new choice from both sides. Same with any relationship. We're not forced to stay in the lives we have. We can just get up and leave any second we want. Might be super hard, but we can do that.
Yeah.
Everyone can.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, you have the choice and you're in charge.
And that's what the deity is.
Destiny.
Yeah. And I think that you have to, like you're saying, check your expectations, you know, like, what do we expect from our own personal relationships? How does that translate to what we expect from deity? It's like, it's not, like you were saying, a magical just fix all of this is my problem, fix it for me, please.
Yeah.
No, I feel like any type of,
it's like, here, I got a twig I found in the forest, now fix it.
Yeah. It's
like, sorry, like, would the twig fix your problem?
Yeah. And I agree with what you're saying. Like, if anything, a deity is not there to grant your wishes. They're there to push you to that next place that you need to be. And sometimes that next place you need to be is not something that they can help you with. So then someone else reaches out to you and is like, well, here's your next journey that you need to go on. And you go through that.
Yeah. And also they tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And and that's the thing, you need to be honest to yourself at all times when it comes to that. Because your intuition will tell you something you might not want to hear. Because it's like, I know, it's like, maybe you should focus a bit more on the craft. Maybe you should like start creating some stuff by yourself. And then it's like, no, you're not just going to read about another deity right now. It's like, no,
if they give me
trying to like, but that's the thing. It's like they want to help you to stay on your path. And like, don't get me wrong. I mean, everyone that is comfortable in their belief, may it be world religions or in the craft, I think it's absolutely wonderful if you have something higher than yourself to believe in. I'm just not too fond of the guilt trip and the feeling to be a sinner no matter what you do. Like you could be the best person ever, and then when basically your time comes to die, it's like, yeah, sorry, dude, you're a sinner. That way. It's like, what? But how? And so far,
this does not compute.
Yeah, it's like, but I have a trick. No, it's like, the craft for me has been so fulfilling, and I learned a lot about myself, what I can do, and overcoming that self-doubt. But that self-doubt will stay with me for the rest of my life. And it's good that it's there, because I don't think anyone who is actually an active witch wants to come across as arrogant. And so I'm a very skeptical person. And when something happens out of the ordinary, I'm the first going like, okay, how can I explain this logically? First thing, it's like, was there a light reflection? What happened? Okay, like, let me check what kind of animals are around at, at this time of day. Like, is it normal that 7 ravens kind of circling above my head? Okay, never seen that before. Why now? And so, but you know what I mean? Sometimes you just cannot find an explanation, and then you just listen to your intuition, but be honest to yourself. And then it's getting easier.
The more you listen to it, the easier.
Exactly, because the voice gets a lot clearer, and you see more signs that might confirm you're on the right path, or when you're not, stuff just happens. For example, like you need something from the store for your craft, and all of a sudden it's not there. It's like out of stock. So what do? Do you push into this to make it happen? Or do you say, okay, well, then maybe now isn't the right time? Because I've had that when I was looking at articles on Hecate. I mean, it's her day tomorrow, 16th of November. And so a lot of rituals take place. And there's a lot of spell work you can do on that day. But I found whenever I was trying to work through a spell that someone else created, I couldn't. It just didn't feel right because it was someone else's, it wasn't mine. And I'm a huge fan of finding your individuality. So take a spell as a guideline. Okay, if you're not familiar with herbs, try something else, just write down something on a piece of paper before you actually poison yourself. Okay, so it's like,
do your research.
It's like, be careful with that stuff. Okay, just don't rush into it. If you don't know what you're dealing with, better safe than sorry. That's what I always say. And make sure you're in the right mindset. If you rush into things like Sunday Mass, how often have I been sitting down thinking, okay, grocery shopping next week, what do I need? What do I want? Oh yeah, it's communion, I need to get up. kind of like that. I was never there.
Yeah.
I was physically there, but my mind was completely somewhere else.
Yeah.
And same thing with ritual work. When I plan on doing a ritual on a day in 3 weeks, I know 100% it's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to happen super spontaneously, and I will have everything I need for that ritual right at hand.
Yeah.
Every single time. Because my intuition says, right, go now. I'm like, but I'm cleaning the dish. Oh yeah, that could wait. I just go over and start doing it. And every single time it was the perfect time for me.
Yeah.
And each one has a perfect time. Each one has a perfect deity, or even when that deity is your inner voice,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it doesn't have to be something big. You don't have to like go for Freya, Hecate, Morrigan, Lilith. Each one of them is beautiful and unique in their own way. And yes, I love to work with a lot of deities from time to time. And yes, it's always like getting to know them first, but not by books. It's basically an inner dialogue I have with them.
Yeah.
And then I check in a book. It's like, oh, does this sound familiar? Because like I said, I need proof at times, because then I'm like, am I going mad? No, I'm not. But, you know, it's nice to have some other people experiencing the same thing.
Yeah.
Or similar thing.
Well, and I love that you noted on, it's like, it is building a relationship. Like you cannot reach out to a person that you don't know and just be like, hey, I am with you. We are in this together.
Yeah.
If you've spent no time having conversations with them, getting to know them, finding out what each other is about, you know, we can't expect
Exactly.
that.
Yeah.
If we can't expect that from relationships with other people, how can we expect that
From
to just
deity.
be different?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to invest the time. You have to, it's not just knowing everything about that goddess or that god. You can research yourself into a frenzy, but
Mm-hmm.
until you actually like sit down and have a conversation and connect in that way, you can't expect to get anything fulfilling out of that exchange, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you have to build a relationship with them just as you would build a relationship with someone you want to be friends with.
Yeah.
Like you're saying.
And that should happen completely on eye level, not like the little, you know, like fangirl and the superstar up there, and you go like, here's the wig, take it. You know, like, no, it's just invite them like you would invite someone you met, you're interested in, and they're interested in you too. And if they accept that offer, that invitation, they will show up.
Mm-hmm.
And you will know the difference. You definitely know the difference then.
Yeah.
Because like no wishful thinking could come close to the experience you have when you connect with a deity and that deity shows up and gives you some advice.
Yeah.
And that's something that will stick with you for the rest of your life. And usually for me, it happens in dreams or just before I fall asleep, you know, right in that state of mind where half awake, half asleep. But then every encounter I remember in every detail for decades.
Yeah.
It's not something you can simply brush off as a dream. They're way more intense. And when you see that difference, you will know what's important.
Yeah.
Because like it's easy to be misguided when kind of like there are ravens like flying above my house every morning and every evening. It doesn't mean it's a sign for me.
Yeah.
It's their route to the forest. They need to feed, you know, like they just happen to fly above the house. But if I have a raven sitting on the other side of the roof, cawing at me like crazy, staring at me, like landing in front of my feet, looking at me, that's a sign for me.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people go like, especially with Hecate, apparently she's connected to keys. sorry, in my world, she's not. I mean, she's a lot, but I always picture Hecate standing in front of a non-existing gate and like, she doesn't need any keys. I'm sorry. You know, it's like, oh yeah, I got a key. And so many people are like, I'm going to offer this key to Hecate. It's like, yeah, super cool, but she doesn't even have a door. So what would she do with a key? Yeah, but she needs to help me, you know, find my path. It's like, dude, go in the forest.
Yeah.
Like, do you find a locked gate there? No, you don't. You kind of like stand, you know, on that crossroad and ask yourself, which path feels right for me?
Yeah.
And that's what Hecate does. You don't need a key set, you know? And so if I open the door with my key, it doesn't mean it's a sign from Hecate. It's just a key and a lock.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's like, it's different, but you know what I mean? So many people that just go like, oh yeah, but here, I found a key in my pocket. Is it the one to your front door? Yes, it is. Might not be a sign from Hecate as much as you wish for, but did you maybe like hear dogs howling, or, you know, did you have dreams about crossroads, or do you notice crossroads much more than before? That might be a sign from Hecate, not that you find the key to your front door in your pocket. So
yeah. And I think that's important to note too. Like always, I think everyone should always be a little critical of what they experience, because you want to make sure that you're evaluating any experience that you have and really thinking through why am I having this experience? Like, what does it mean to me? But also, like, is this a real connection? Is your intuition telling you that this is something, or is it wishful thinking, like you're saying?
yeah,
Because only you can tell the difference. Only you know what you've experienced and whether it's real or not.
yeah. If it helps you, it's a great thing.
Yeah.
And each one is different. So each one is going to make different experiences.
Exactly.
And that's the beautiful thing about it. It's not just, you know, one leader and you have many followers that apparently don't dare to think, you know, for themselves. It's easier for them to just follow and obey instructions and be happy with it. But that was never something for me. I always want to know why things happen.
Yeah.
And how can I be a better version of myself? I'm seeking knowledge. I don't seek, you know, money or anything. You know, for me, it's like, I want to know all the background information. I want to know about the old ways. And all of a sudden Freya appeared. I was like, that's pretty cool. And that's pretty like the old ways. So yay. And that was my wish and it got granted. But of course, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of self-doubt and the guilt trip at the beginning. But like I said, I've had experiences when I had 3 deities that I was working with at the same time, which was a beautiful experience because it was not like the stuff you have with humans at times, that there's a lot of bickering. So everyone wants to be the center of attention. No, they were working as a team and it was beautiful to see. There was no envy, there was no jealousy. It was just unconditional support, love, and respect. And that's something I'm trying to include in my life every day. So when I meet fellow witches, or even like with my family and friends and people I meet on the street, I try very hard sometimes to give them the respect and support. Trust me, grocery shopping during COVID really tests my patience.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's why I'm saying I'm trying. Okay. I'm really trying my best. It's not always working, but it helps me to see, especially when I get to know someone a bit closer. And even though the paths are so different at times, I'm not going to judge their path. Why should I? It's not mine. I want to know why they chose their path. And like, if they want to talk about it, what they're doing. And not in any position to say, yeah, but you're doing it wrong, I'm doing it right. But so many people do. It's like, I'm sorry, you know, like I said earlier on, I'm an adult. I can decide for myself, and I will do that. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to tell you, oh yeah, but you need to do it that way. No, I can only share my experiences if I made experiences in that field, and I can say, okay, what happened when I was doing this? I had this and that experience. Like, okay, just don't mix water and electricity, kind of like that. Just some good advice, you know.
Baseline stuff.
Yeah,
just some baseline.
Just very
stuff.
base.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, oh, you work with Hecate. Why don't you have keys?
Yeah.
I have keys, otherwise I couldn't open my front door. What does it have to do with Hecate?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but did you not read that? I'm sorry, in my experience, I can only speak for myself. I never needed any key to connect with her. I never needed Greek to connect with her.
Yeah.
You know, another thing, I have a very, very personal relationship with her, and she adapts to my needs. And that's wonderful. Each deity adapts to each human in a different way.
Yeah. And I agree with that. And I think that that's important to say. Like, everyone's going to have different relationships with the same deity. Now, there may be some similarities and experiences, but it's not going to be the same for every person, because what
No,
you need is going to be different than what Olivia
exactly.
or what I need.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
so the deity is there to help support you in your journey, and everyone's journey is different. No one's going through the same thing or needs the same support. So
That connection's going to be different.
yeah, the connection's gonna be
absolutely.
different.
Some people, I mean, same thing with some people, they need a kick in the butt, you know, to stay on their path. Other people would completely be discouraged when that happens. And they would say, hell no, I'm not going to do anything right now. They need to be motivated. And so in my experience, the deities can be very terrifying to some people, but those people need exactly that treatment to stay on their path. And after a couple of months or years, when I talked to them, they were like, oh, that was exactly what I needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas the same deity to me was super supportive and helpful and encouraging. And I was like, I did not expect that. Sorry, but where's the eternal fire? You know, like the red glowing eyes and like the fire whip that's going like, you need to get off your ass. No, I never made that experience because that would discourage me.
Yeah. I think it's important to note too, because a lot of people who are new to the path think that they have to have a deity.
Yeah,
And
you
like you
don't.
mentioned, like, okay, let's go and research all the deities and pick which one, you know, I think works best for me. Not everyone needs a deity. Not
No.
everyone's going to have a deity, and it doesn't mean that your practice is any less meaningful because you don't have one.
I've actually had a lot of people reach out to me recently about this topic, about like, do I have to work with a deity? And it's like, absolutely
No.
not. You know,
No.
your path, your practice is about so many different things. And this is actually something that I want us to get into discussing more. Like, you can't define what witchcraft is, you know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when it comes down to it, the basis for me at least is working with energy, you know?
Yeah.
Different energies, different beings have different energies. It's all about what is your intention and creating your work in your intention and putting that
Exactly.
out, you know?
Yes.
And so you can work with elementals, you can work with plants, you can work with just within yourself, you know? You can do just work with what is my intent, what is my energy, what is my focus. You don't have to.
And that defines everything. It's always about your intention.
Yeah.
I don't make a difference between like black magic or good magic or anything. If you have an ill intent, you know, you can use a spell and harm someone that is actually supposed to heal someone.
Yeah.
It always depends on your mindset. With a sword, you can cut a coat and help someone in need of like clothing, or you can stab someone in the back.
Yeah.
The tools are the same, but your intention is what makes it real, and you got to deal with the consequences. And this is what I'm telling my kids too when they're interested. One of my daughters, she's super interested in Catholic Church. She prays, she goes to church. Absolutely fine for me. I'm not in any position to force my children into a path that's not meant for them.
Yeah.
They can decide what they want to do. When they see me doing some rituals, or working with my pendulum, or working with tarot, or working with the runes, they come over and look at it and like, oh mom, what's that card? Can you explain that to me? And I will explain it to them. But I'm not gonna go like, oh, this will be your path.
Yeah.
Because it might not be.
Yeah.
But they know I have lots of tools here, and also with plants, toxic plants as well. I tell them, you need to be super careful. Don't touch it. They're not here because of the cats. So they're in a different room, so everyone is safe. And yes, for me, working with deities, it's a great thing, like working with other witches. I love working with what I call like the universe, that a universal energy. And that can take any shape, also the shape of a deity you might need in that moment.
Yeah.
And I don't see them as humans. Like, for example, God, old white-haired man, beard, sorry, can't relate.
Yeah.
Like, not really my thing.
Yeah.
And they can take a different form, but they can also be a whisper in the wind, or a scent, or a dream. It doesn't matter. So yes, you don't necessarily need a deity. What you need is to find out first, what path do you want to take? If you're interested in something, look it up. See how it feels for you.
Yeah.
No peer pressure, not like, oh, back in the 90s, everyone needs to wear neon. I'm really not the neon type. So same thing, like, oh, all of my friends, are into voodoo. Yeah, sorry, not for me. I respect it a lot, but I cannot see myself getting into that.
Yeah.
So it's nothing for me. And when someone else is like, oh yeah, but I really want to try that. Yeah, but why do you want to try that? I was watching American Horror Story, The Coven. Might not be the right reason to get into that. So maybe instead of like creating your own voodoo doll for the first time, why don't you read into it and see where it's actually coming from and what the purpose of it is in the first place, and really like listen to yourself. How do you resonate to that? Is it a good feeling? Is it a bad feeling? Is it indifference? Because when it's not really good, like you're kind of stuck to it, then maybe you should try something else, like crochet. I always say try crochet, instead of putting a hex on someone, winter's coming, knit a scarf, please.
Yeah. Well, and you do, you have to think about and take seriously that you're leaving an imprint of yourself on any of the work that you do. And that can be taken from a witchcraft standpoint. That can even be just taken from a day by day standpoint. The things that you say, the ways that you react, the energy that you choose to give off, that is your imprint that you are putting on not just your world, but how that world influences everybody else. And there has to be that level of seriousness behind it.
Yeah.
I think that seriousness shouldn't be a cause of like holding somebody back from even wanting to try or to go into things. But like with what you're saying, it's like you have to sit with everything that you're doing, and you have to do that self-evaluation work first. And from there, if you feel pulled or called to work with the deity to do this type of practice, that's when you make that decision. But if you haven't sat with, okay, why am I feeling this? And you don't have a clear vision forward, then it's just, what do you expect to get from that? it's just swimming through for the sake of fumbling through it, you know?
Yeah.
Like there has to be that clear focus.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think taking inventory before doing anything is always like,
Yes.
like just really taking a moment to sit with like what you feel like you're being called to do and really figure out like why and what is your intention, and really studying that and sitting with that before you do anything that you may not actually want to do or need to do at that moment.
Or for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing, like out of boredom, no one should start witchcraft or any new project, you know? It's a real dedication. Yes, you put your energy in it, and yes, there are always consequences. And this is what most people don't take into consideration when starting with the craft as well. Like sometimes I'm getting messages like, oh, I'm a witch too. And then I look at their profile, it's like, okay, last week you were a hippie, the week before you were, okay, what kind of witch are you? Oh, you know, like Sabrina. Okay. Yeah, I got a Ouija board. Oh God, please don't. It's like, okay, I also got a Ouija board tattooed on my back. All right, good luck with that.
Yeah. Best of
It's
luck.
like, I'm sorry. Just because you were watching a TV show does not make you a witch, okay?
Yeah.
It's because there are people out there who really practice and who take it serious. And then a bunch of other people come along and they're like, I'm a witch. And you're like, you might be dressed like a witch, but no. And then a week later, they're like something completely different.
Yeah.
And those people kind of put a bad reputation on the craft because as far as I know, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to feel connected and to actively work with magic, with the energies, create something that you never thought was possible because of like, yeah, you were never given the opportunity or you never had the courage to actually stay on your path. Trying something new is hard.
Yeah.
Yes, and like coming out of the broom closet is hard too. And it's weird when all of a sudden I meet people I've known for over 20 years and I tell them about my shop and they're like, you're a witch, right? And it's like, yeah. And they're like, we always knew. I'm like, was it that obvious? Like, yes.
Yeah.
But it feels good to be open about it. I mean, nowadays you actually can be open about it. Like, I couldn't have done that like 300 years ago. I probably, you know, like, it's like, oh yeah, hi, I'm a witch. You're dead. Okay.
Okay, great.
No, but
So,
I kind of want to go back to what you were talking about with, I feel like there's this catch-22 when it comes to like these pop culture things.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's in some ways awesome to like I remember watching The Craft when I was younger and being like, yeah, I feel that. You know, it's like there are some ways that it can kind of bring people into,
The
I don't want to
fold.
say understanding witchcraft, but having perspectives,
Yeah.
you know, to jump
yeah.
on. But I
New
do
possibilities, new options, you know, it's like, oh, that sounds interesting. I would like to know more about this. That's wonderful.
but I wish there was
Absolutely.
more representation of actual practice.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know, instead
that
of
would be
it being
nice.
so cinematic, it's like I think it's kind of our responsibility to have those conversations and to, I don't want to say call out those things, but to bridge the gap.
Yeah. Between what you see in pop culture.
Yeah.
And what is true.
Yeah.
Or actual practice.
Which is hard to do because that's everybody's practice is so different. So
Yeah.
how do you define that? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Um,
But I think this is like a start to that kind of conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Definitely. And it's a great start, and also putting something positive out there. Like your shop, I can feel that energy. Like there's so much love and dedication and positive energy that comes along with it. And it's work. You actively created something. And that's exactly what the craft is about.
Yeah.
And that's what people like to forget. When they see that, they think, oh my God, I make this potion, I can levitate. No, you can't levitate. You're basically sitting there drooling because you're probably that close to an overdose right now.
Yeah.
So the craft, you make something, you put it out there, you fill it with energy, and other people can benefit from it.
Yeah.
And you get so much in return, not necessarily from that specific person, but all the energies around. You attract what you give out there.
Yep.
That's 100% what it's about. And like I said, for me, intuition is all. You have to be in a certain balance with yourself. Always.
Know thyself, witch.
Exactly. Know thyself.
Alyssa kind of touched on this earlier, but one of the things that she and I really want to start kind of doing is doing like a Defining Witch series, and trying to, while you can't define a witch, like kind of have a conversation around that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that this is probably going to be a continual conversation that we have. So yeah, like to your,
where to even begin that, right?
I know. But like to,
how do you define witchcraft?
how do you define?
Well,
but like
it all started with a bang, like back in the day.
The Big Bang.
the Big Bang.
And then a broom appeared. I always think it's so funny when people ask me like, oh yeah, like, are you riding on your broom tonight? I'm like, yeah, but before I'm just gonna slaughter some virgins and take a bath in their blood. What do you think I'm doing?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
It's like all those stereotypes, seriously, no, I don't boil any newborns, and like, I don't drink blood. I'm not a fucking vampire, But people still have that stereotype. And when I tell them what I'm actually doing, they're like, oh, but that sounds interesting. It's like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Well,
Don't you
and
think?
I was just thinking about this morning, actually, as I was getting ready, and it's like there's so many things that people do that are witchcraft.
Yeah.
That people don't realize are witchcraft. It's the little daily rituals that you do every day. It is
Just take tea or take coffee.
Yeah. It is.
You grind your beans, like it's powdery, you put hot water in it, you take a sip of that magic potion, and all of a sudden you're wide awake. Or tea, you take herbs, you mix them with water. Oh, really? Sounds like witchcraft to me.
I mean, even just writing in a journal every night what your goals and your intentions are, that's
You're manifesting. That's an affirmation spell.
Yeah.
It's like what people do. Or even go like, oh, please let me get that promotion. Did I hear witchcraft?
Mm-hmm. That sounds like witchcraft.
Do I hear witchcraft?
Yeah,
but yeah.
So many people were actually doing it on a daily basis. Just get on an airplane and fly. Oh my God, you're levitating through the air.
Magic.
It's magic.
I do have to say though, this is quite synchronistic. Because I was looking back through, I found one of the first like little notepads from when we first sat down and started talking about starting this whole project. And one of the topics that I wrote down for us to discuss are working with different deities. And
wow.
So I found that this week as I was going through, like I was cleaning out my classroom. And
that's amazing.
Wow.
Wow.
So it was definitely meant to be. I take that as a sign,
We manifested it out there.
Yep.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I got to do it.
I know.
With you.
I know. I'm so glad that we got to sit down and talk to you, Sandra.
Same. It's always such a pleasure to see you and really like oh God, after the last Zoom meeting, I was like, ah.
I
much
know,
fun,
I
yeah.
know. It was so much fun. It was so much
I
fun.
was buzzing, just
yeah,
buzzing all day.
Yeah,
Me
yeah.
too,
It was
like,
so good.
but it's true, your energy is so beautiful and you're so down to earth, you know? I really, really love and appreciate that.
We love and appreciate
Everything you do, it's so real. You know what I mean? You're not trying to be someone you're not.
Yeah.
You put out there, you're so authentic, absolutely lovable, and it's an absolute pleasure getting to know you. So thank you very much for this opportunity to actually like chat with you here.
Oh my God. You're gonna make me cry.
Stop, keep going.
No, but
Seriously,
seriously, like Alyssa and I talk about you all the time, and we're like, we just love you so much. And we think that
Love you too.
Yeah, like we think that you're stunning.
I do have to tell you something sweet. I was talking yesterday to my fiance, and I was like, we're recording with Sandra tomorrow, and he was like, the beautiful German lady.
Oh,
was funny.
God. Thank you.
I did embarrass us a little bit. Yeah.
But Sandra, this has been
Yeah.
so much fun.
It has been.
So much for joining us, and one for kind of bringing back kind of what we had, been
Yeah.
thinking about at the very
Yeah.
beginning of this, and bringing it back to us. And I really like having these conversations with other people, because it's so good to get other people's viewpoints and their
Perspectives and
practice.
experiences.
Yeah.
And also, I got the idea to talk about this when I was actually sitting at the Hard Rock, sitting there with my daughter, and then Tori, I think we were just chatting, and I was like, oh yeah, monotheism, like in witchcraft, that would be a topic, and it was just in between shots and everything, so completely random.
Yeah.
But see, and that's a sign, in my opinion. It wasn't like, oh, what would I like to talk about? No, it just appeared.
Yeah.
Like plugging a thought out of thin air. So perfect.
Yeah. So again, we thank you so much, guys. Don't forget, like and subscribe, and hit that little bell to get notifications. Ding, 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 ding. And click below to learn more about our Patreon and join our Patreon.
Yes.
And also don't forget our shop is open. We will be posting some exciting news there in a few weeks.
Yule stuff.
So
Yes.
keep an eye out on that. So thanks so much for watching. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.